Saying much, really. $2 million down there. And we were in the LA Kings neighborhood.
Oh, nice.
And everybody's rich down there. And the fact that the house that the director got was, I guess the kitchen matches looks very similar to the private kitchen in the White House. You know, they have a main kitchen on the main floor, and then they have a private one for the first family in their area.
Nice.
And so we shot the movie there. It was awesome. You know, I wish I could do that every day the rest of my life.
Sure.
For what I'm making now in my regular work. And I do security work is what I do on the side. Or main job. I work for a small company that provides security personnel for high-profile clients, actors, CEOs of companies, actors, celebrities, that kind of thing. And we also do convention work. But other than that, that's what I've been chasing. And I did a couple of films just in the past 2 weeks. So it's funny how when it rains, it pours. When it's dry, you starve to death for, a few months, and then all of a sudden you get 4 or 5 jobs back to back. So it's kind of weird how that works. But
now your last name is Miklos.
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 Yeah,
okay,
like Mick Jagger.
Miklos.
Miklos.
And I thought that was Greek.
There's an invisible H on the end. It's Miklos. My father and my mother were both Hungarian immigrants. My father said, "You look Italian. Your name looks Greek, but it's Hungarian, and don't you forget it." So it's Miklos. Only 1 or 2 people in my life have ever pronounced it correctly, but I go by Miklos. It's been that way forever. So people think I'm Greek. Whatever. So
hey, I'm going to start the show.
Okay.
Hey man, it is the Ace Micheals Show. Good to have you back. You got your post-election blues out of your system, and whichever way you went, you now realize that it's on and popping. You can't change it. So that's what's up. On the show today is a gentleman who has a very, very interesting resume point. I'm sure any job that he goes to, this is always going to be a point of conversation. George Micheals is with us, and he ran for president this year. Right? I know, right? Anyway, George, welcome to the show for the first time, buddy. It's good to have you.
Thank you, Ace. I appreciate the invite.
President. You wanted to be president of the United States. Why?
Well, I don't know. A year and a half ago, I'm like every other American. I have my ideals and the subject matter that I'm familiar with, and I found out that this particular election cycle, there was 3 candidates on the right, on the Republican side, that had no political experience at all. So I figured, well, let's look up the qualifications to run for president, and there was 4 of them. And I checked each one of them off, and I qualified. So I figured, why not? If Donald Trump, Dr. Ben Carson, and Carla Fiorina could run without 1 day of service in public office, why not me?
Sure.
And the process to run for president was designed for anyone in America that qualified and felt like they had an opportunity to change things and want to run for president, they could. And when you mention qualifications, you think that, you must have some kind of political experience, even if it's on a local level, city councilman, mayor, governor, senator, whatever. Well, you don't. The 4 requirements, I don't know if you're interested in hearing them, but I can...
hey, you got me, but...
Got to be 35 or older.
Okay.
So I qualified on that one. Then it said you had to live in the United States the last 14 years. I'm assuming, so you're acclimated to American life, or you understand the way America is and all that kind of thing. And then you had to have been born in America. You didn't have to pull out a birth certificate. They didn't ask me for one. They just took my word for it. And then you can't be a convicted felon. I had to dig a little bit. I had to make sure. But yeah, I came out okay.
But you were right, as if you weren't there and you wouldn't know. So, but what about this being the leader of the free world stuff? Like, are you some kind of diabolical madman that wants to run the whole world?
That's funny how anytime you mention politics, we get this, it's just natural, I guess, we get this negative connotation. Oh, politics, oh. One of the things that you weren't supposed to talk about, politics, religion, and social issues in mixed company. You always had this, you never knew what was going to happen.
Sure.
So Yeah, I mean, it was just, I don't have this desire to rule the world, but I wanted to make some changes. I had my own few little things that have bothered me over the years, not just recently in the last 8 years, but my lifetime that I've seen. In this particular election cycle, started out, maybe when Donald Trump announced his candidacy, talking about immigration.
Right.
And I felt like, well, wait a second, my parents were Hungarian immigrants. We mainly when we talk about immigration, sometimes it's hard to say illegal immigration. And what we mainly discuss is Mexico, which happens to be our neighbor. And so when we talk about immigration, we tend to talk about south of the border, Mexico. But there's millions of immigrants from all around the world that are here, that wanted to come and make a better life, that are undocumented. And for me, that held a special thing in mind because I'm first generation. And it's the mindset to me, since we're on immigration, the mindset of an individual that wants to come to America. Where's the mindset like my parents had, or maybe people from a half a century ago that wanted to come here? They didn't have the internet, so they found out wherever they went, libraries or whoever they could get a hold of, to find out what you needed to do to move to America.
Right.
So they go down the list. Check. Okay, we did that. Boom. Check. We did that. And I don't know what the exact requirements are are to become a citizen in America. But my parents had the mindset, they didn't want to come here illegally. They didn't want to come here undocumented.
Sure.
They wanted to do the right thing, to move to a better world, to make a better life for themselves and their future family. And that's what the mindset of hundreds of millions of immigrants in the last 100 years was. Today, probably the majority are here coming to doing the same thing. But there's that handful that, and I say handful, right now is around 12 to 15 million. I don't think anybody even really knows the true number. Now, we've heard all kinds of different things from Trump, wanting to vet people better, which is certainly not a bad thing, to Hillary Clinton, we find out from Wikileaks, from one end of the spectrum to the other, where she was looking for open borders in the Western Hemisphere. Not, let everybody come in. It doesn't matter where you're from, what papers you have, just come on in. And it can't be that way. Eventually, societies like that eventually collapse. If you look at history, when you've got to bring people in, and it's fine. I'm willing to open the door for you and hold the door, but you've got to do it the right way.
Given that, again, people don't misunderstand me. I'm not a player. I just crush a lot. I don't know a lot about politics, but I hear certain things that stick, that go into a file. So what I heard was that Canada has this kind of very detailed process. If you want to get Canadian citizenship, it takes about 10 years, number one. And there's all sorts of things that you need to do. You need to know about the country and, blah, blah,
Sure.
blah. Wouldn't that be a good enough idea for America? Like, do we need a wall to keep people out? Can't we just have like a complicated SAT type of situation? Because that shuts down a lot of stuff right there. Check FICO scores. That would keep people out of America.
That's not a bad idea, Ace, really. But the funny thing is, as you mentioned, I think the wall is more of a,
metaphorical wall?
Maybe. But the thing is every other country in the world, what made America great was allowing people from other parts of the world to come here and start a new life. But there are laws on the books already. People don't think that there's laws already in place. The rules my parents went through, they've been there for 100 years. Just find out. You can go on the internet now and find out the information in 5 minutes. You can go down to your local immigration office and start the paperwork in a half a day. Now, is the process flawed? Sure. It took my parents 6 years back in the late 50s to become citizens. But they did it. And I have met people that I've worked with in the past in my life who they would come to work crying one day and, what's wrong? And they were so happy because they had just been sworn in as a U.S. citizen. The hard work, the testing, they have it. You have to go through like a history class or history lesson of America and learn the Star-Spangled Banner and the basic stuff that we all learned in grade school for the most part. Maybe even government stuff in high school. You don't have to be a political aficionado to become an American citizen. Most of us aren't. And when you think about politics, it's not even really politics, just immigration. The word now gets people all uptight. And when I watch a lot of news stories, they talk about Donald Trump hates immigrants. He doesn't hate
Clearly, he doesn't hate
immigrants.
them.
Immigrants. He wants to give them. You know, if I had been elected, it would have been a process. And I know Trump's not going to be able to deport 12 million.
Right.
Now, would it teach them a lesson? Eisenhower deported 5 million people in the 50s. And he made it horrible conditions when they sent back so they wouldn't come back. You want to come back? Fine. We'll open the door for you, but you've got to go through the process. It's flawed. It takes forever, but that's just the way it is. You know, it puts a burden on society, I think, financially, economically, and, you know, in the schools. And sometimes it's mind-boggling to me where you have to have an ID to get a library card.
Sure.
How does an undocumented immigrant get a job at a casino or a business of some sort and is able to buy a house and get a car? And I'm thinking, how is that possible? And we've become lazy. It's not just been in the last few years. It's been this way for 30, 40 years. It's just the steady decline of following the rules. And again, I'm not a rule stickler, but there's certain things that have to be followed, and that's one of them.
Now, speaking of rule stickler, so in your presidential campaign, give me a few bullet points of your campaign points that your agenda would have been had you won this time. You might win next time.
Right.
You know
Maybe
they got
so.
another one coming up, George.
Hopefully, 3 years already. We're
Right.
going to start
You're already
campaigning in
countdown. Exactly.
2018, 2019,
Exactly.
it's going to start.
As soon as Halloween is over, we put the next president's stuff out.
2020. Let's go. Well, I don't know. I think my presidency, it was similar in a lot of ways. I ran as a conservative, an American Independent Conservative Party. When I went online to sign up at the Federal Election Commission website, they had a button, which party? You click on it. Phew, this whole list of like 50 to 100 different parties, and I'm going through the list. Okay, Republican, Democrat, Tea Party, Libertarian, Green Party. Okay, I've heard. Then there were some obscure parties I never heard of in my life. I don't even think half the people.
Raise your pinky finger to the moon.
Party, yeah. So I go down the list and I see American Independent Conservative. I said, well, okay. I don't want to get lumped up with the Republicans. There's too many. 17 at that point.
Right.
I said, well, I'm not a lefty, although I'm a moderate right. You know, I always think that the intelligent voter sits on the fence. And it's like looking at a gas tank of your car, the needle. I'm not all the way right. I'm not all the way left. I'm just above half, a little over half. That's how I look at my political leanings. There are certain issues as far as business and money where I'm total right. And then on social issues, maybe a little more bent to the left, a little on certain things. Immigration was a big one because my parents were immigrants. I feel I can talk about that.
Sure.
Without getting offensive.
Sure.
And sometimes some people had to be reminded that when you talk about illegal immigration, sometimes they would throw the word out, the racist out, or bigot, or sexist, or whatever. And illegal immigration is not a race. We just happen to talk about Mexico.
Sexism is also not a race, and that's another big issue. And abortion.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So now, when you run for president, I want to talk about. First, I'm going to ask you this question, and then we're going to go back to the other question that came up while I was thinking about that question. When you run for president, people are expecting you to have the answers. You're supposed to have the solution, and that's why you make a good president, right? So, in some of these issues that clearly won't go away anytime soon, there will always be the ugly things like racism, like abortion, like rape, like. What are your takes on these things?
Well, in particular, since the election, what's bothered me a lot is the protesting / rioting. There is a difference between protesting and rioting. And especially the riot in Portland, for example. Everybody's talking about Portland, Oregon. They arrested 112 people or something like that, and over 70% of them didn't vote.
Some weren't even old enough to vote.
Right, high school kids.
So, what do you make of that?
Where are the parents, first of all, especially if you're in high school?
Right.
And are you protesting because you don't like the selection of the president-elect because of what you've heard from family members or school teachers or parents, or is it because you've actually looked at the issues and made that thought in your own mind, that decision that you did. And I would say the very few percentage actually made up their own mind about it. They usually follow the lead of maybe a school teacher or a friend or parents about their political leanings and what they feel like.
But George, now just to play devil's advocate for a second, isn't that kind of what America's about, though? Us having the right to protest. I'm not saying I'm for or against it, but isn't that kind of the American thing that we get to protest? I mean, some countries you can't even protest. You're like, hey, all I get's a loaf of bread? Yeah. Okay, good night.
You're correct, Ace, about protesting. Protesting is a right to do that. You're allowed to do that as an American citizen. Once it crosses the line to rioting and destroying your neighbors' businesses,
sure,
homes, cars, the stores you go shopping at, that becomes a problem and an issue. And some of these rioters aren't even from the towns that they're rioting in.
Right.
They have out-of-state driver's
Let's go to
licenses.
somebody else's town.
I don't get it. And and this has been happening over the years recently, different situations. You know, some inner city shootings or stuff like that, or cop versus criminal type. There's been a couple of those instances where there was protesting that turned ugly and turned into rioting. It's not even a fine line between protesting and rioting. We all know that what the difference is. And as soon as you start destroying people's property, that becomes a problem in my mind.
It's just like having a party at someone's house, and as soon as something gets broken, now this was out of control.
Exactly.
Anything, because something, got out of control. So the question that came inside of the question was this: why do we need a president? I mean, why a president? Can't we have Congress and Senate and have 300 people kind of make the decision of what's going on and argue amongst 300 people? Wouldn't it be more democratic to have a bunch of people go at it until they finally reach a conclusion? Why do we have to have one person who sits at the top of that throne and is called the big chief?
I'm glad you brought that up. It's similar to what they've been discussing recently with the election. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. Donald Trump won the Electoral College, which you need 270 electoral votes to become president, regardless of the popular vote. Now, back in the 1770s, when George Washington, Ben Franklin, all these guys, it was a brilliant idea. They didn't, electoral college, they knew that America was going to grow. And I can't remember off my hand how far west they thought America, the land, actually went. But they knew that their area, America, was going to grow. Population was going to grow. People were going to settle in America, and families were going to grow. Cities, towns were going to grow into cities. And the goal was to give everyone a fair vote. Now, in today's world, if you just went on the popular vote, you would see the coast, New York,
anyone,
California,
might be the president.
Illinois, the popular vote, the city. So that's where all the people live. Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, they wouldn't have gone out and traveled everywhere all over the country if they knew that all the votes, the popular votes, would be in New York, Texas, California, Illinois. They wouldn't travel anywhere else. So the small person in Kansas or Middle America, Iowa, would never get their voices heard.
They'd be left out.
So it makes sense. Now, popular vote, at this point, both candidates got over 60 million votes. It's just about split down the middle. Hillary, 500,000 votes more, maybe a little more than that. But at that point, half the country voted for you, half the country didn't. Donald Trump got the electoral votes, and at the beginning we all thought that Trump would be the more popular candidate, but Hillary would come out on top of the Electoral College.
Right.
Now, there has to be a leader of the free world. Back when America first was getting started, you had to have a leader to set up some kind of government. That's everybody from England or Europe moved to America as the time grew and the people grew and the population got bigger and wars were started and we were fighting England here in America back then.
But George, Van Halen didn't have a leader. The Beatles didn't have a leader.
Well,
Led Zeppelin didn't have a leader.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like what?
That's a whole other subject.
But it does. It seems like when you get a leader, like once Roger Waters says he's the leader of Pink Floyd, then it ruins Pink Floyd, and everything goes to suck after that.
Real quickly, I think Roger Waters and David Gilmour were both the same with Van Halen. Now we're getting off the subject, but yeah, David Lee Roth and Eddie David Lee Roth was never the leader, but the Van Halen brothers were. It was their band. Okay. Now, in America, as far as presidential, getting back to that, you had to have a leader. You have to have someone that answers to. You have to have somebody at the top.
Is that because you got to have someone who's accountable at the end of the day?
Sure, that's part of it.
Well, hey, he made the decision.
Well, not only that, but again, it's when you form a military, you have a general, you have a command, you have a commanding officer, an executive commanding officer, squad leaders. Mm-hmm. You have to have, and again, the president handpicks people to surround him, and then they set up different areas of the government.
Sure.
And he gives the responsibility to them in their individual departments, and you have to answer to somebody. We all have a boss.
Sure.
And I just don't think that what do you want, just a ceremonial figurehead like the Queen of England? You know, they haven't made a decision in 300 years.
Right.
You know,
right.
They have a prime minister now. But every country in the world has to have some leader, or there would be just total chaos if nobody led or nobody set an example. It would be total chaos, I think. Just like in America with the law enforcement in the recent years, the backlash they've received over certain incidences.
Sure.
And not all of them. They weren't guilty of a lot of, there was a couple that were not a good thing. But law enforcement, if you didn't have law enforcement at all, think how bad it would be.
Of course. Now then there's a loaded question that comes with that, which is, and I'm old enough to have lived through a couple of presidential elections that I really comprehended and understand. And pretty much every one of them started off not as extreme as this one, but it's a pattern. What happens is the new guy gets in and everybody has doomsday on their mind. They go, oh, he's going to change this, he's going to this is never going to work. Look what he's doing now. And then eventually people mellow out and it does what it does. But with this particular president-elect, people are already talking, some people are already talking about limiting the amount of power that a president should have because there's so much doomsday talk about what he might now have the power to do. What are your thoughts on that? Should a president's power or what do you call it? Well, it's called power. They call it his authoritative power. Should it be limited?
Now, I will tell you, it's limited as it is. Most people don't realize.
Well, that's because you want to be president.
Well,
you said that.
Right. Congress they make most of the decisions. Now, does the president have the authority to do things if he wants to? Sure, but he can't override Congress. He still has to, give them an opportunity to see what he wants to do. Now, is there certain things that Trump wants to do? I mean, since we're talking about him, he is the president-elect, regardless of what you did or voted for.
Let me interject. Don't forget that. Okay, I understand he's a president-elect, but we can call him. He's the president. He's going to be the president. So we can forget. There's no cooling off period. He is going to be the president.
Correct.
He's the president-elect. He's pretty much the president.
I do think there's some people on the left that still hope that on December 19th. That the Electoral College, the electors get together, and highly unlikely, but they could all vote for someone else.
Wouldn't that be a catastrophe, though?
It would be awful. Right now, especially with the two candidates that we had that made it to the end. Over 1,500 candidates filed papers to run for president, just to let the audience know. A lot of people, maybe 2,000 even. But those were the two left standing.
Sure.
And after all, in fact, when 2 weeks ago I went to a Donald Trump rally. I've also been to a Hillary Clinton one. I just want to get that out there that I wanted to go to both just to see. Even though I was running for president, I had my own selfish motives too for going.
Of course.
But I went to a Donald Trump rally 2 weeks ago, 8 days before the election. 9,000 people were there in this ballroom at the Venetian. 9,000. And I was telling the guy I was with, how is it possible that over the last month and a half, the polls have said Hillary, 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 Trump's got to win this state, that state, 5 more, borrow a couple from his mom. He's going to have to do everything and this and that, and there's no way. And I was thinking to myself, How is he getting 9, 10, 15, 20, 30,000 people to fill stadiums up to come see him? And the one I went to was relatively small compared. And Hillary Clinton, exaggerating, but she couldn't fill a bathroom up. You know, there's 800, 1,200,
Right.
maybe a couple thousand, maybe at a couple of them.
And this is with Jay-Z or
And Beyonce. I saw the video of them.
Off the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Right, and the stadium was empty. I'm going, wait a second. And she had to surround herself with celebrities to get people to come. And I was telling my friend, how is this possible that he's losing everything? But there is a red flag that people should have realized over the summer during the primaries. And Michael Moore, who I'm not a big fan of, but I saw him on an interview one night, and what he said was spot on. Back in the summer, when Bernie Sanders won Michigan and Wisconsin, which are traditionally blue states, Democratic, when he took those two states, he said a red flag went up in his mind because, wow, he beat Hillary in both those have-to-win states, so to speak. And then during the general election, Pennsylvania turned red for the first time in almost 30 years. You know, and I kept watching the news, and I kept watching Trump takes Florida. 10 years later, Trump takes Ohio. Trump takes North Carolina. Hillary got Vermont, you know. Or
it's interesting you say it, George. When I'm thinking about it, here's what my thought was: the entire election process after the primaries, and it was down to those two. My thought was, if he's not doing so well, why is he so gung ho to keep going? Because I'm watching CNN, for example, and they're saying Hillary's this, Hillary's this. All the news is about Hillary, and it's about Barack Obama. I rarely watch Fox News, but when I do, then all of that news is about Trump, and I get how that works. But to the common person, it seemed like most of the media was for Hillary, and then that calls to mind the elephant in the room, the effect of media on the election. If you had the media outlet exposure of either one of those candidates, maybe you might be president right now.
Over 8 million votes were cast for third-party candidates. I wish I could find out how many I got.
So you don't even know.
I probably won't ever know. And I had people across the country. Oh, we're voting for you. People I knew, people I didn't know.
Oh, interesting.
We're voting for you. We're voting. And you can only write in a candidate, I think, in like 10 or 12 states. In the state of Nevada, you have to get your name on the ballot if you want to have people vote for you. And I needed 10% signatures of the amount of people that voted in the previous election. In 2012, over 1 million people voted in the state of Nevada. So would have had to come up with over 100,000 signatures. Virtually impossible with my limited abilities to go on the road.
Now, when you talk about abilities, I was just going to say, you're not necessarily talking about financial abilities. You're talking about physical. I mean, you don't have a plane to fly you all over the country.
Right.
And you don't have a campaign manager, an entourage of media twist spin
Exactly.
people. Okay. So,
and I became the social media candidate.
Okay.
This is back in August of 2015. I managed to garner over 20,000 followers on social media. Combined, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that.
But now, George,
that's not a lot, really. But
now, George, honestly, when you do that, I mean, don't you kind of feel like Rocky in the first fight against Apollo Creed, going, "This is ridiculous. I know I will not win, but I'm going to do this anyway and see what happens."
Had no shot, even from the day I announced that I wanted to do it. I knew I had no shot, but I wanted to do it anyway because I'm an American. I qualified and I fulfilled the requirements. So I said, well, I'm going to do it. Why not? So, and I did. And I became a social media candidate. I've had my life threatened. I've been called...
You had your life threatened?
Twice. So I high-fived my wife, said, honey, we did it.
Right, now you know you're doing something right.
So,
that's crazy.
So I'd have my dog, I'd get up at 4 in the morning to go to work, and I would have my dog go outside. Let me know if you see anybody in the bushes. And that's being funny, but no, it's. I've been called every name in the book: sexist, racist, bigot, all kinds of other names. Whenever I would form my opinion on anything, people that disagree with you, you're automatically this, you're automatically
Isn't
that.
that a crazy world? Like, you think.
And I learned a lot about it.
Here's a guy who is trying to run for president because he wants to make the world a better place, make America great again.
Right.
But the first thing you say is, "Oh, you're gonna run for president, you son."
It's the negative connotation. Oh, you running for president? That's all that. Oh, then there's a handful. Oh, good for you. Congratulations. Go out there and get him. You know. But then there was that automatic politics. Oh, you're running for president?
It's a shutdown.
Yeah, automatic.
Interesting.
So you had to get over that. That public's perception of politicians has been dirty since the beginning.
Sure.
And I found that out personally.
Now, speaking of dirty, this particular presidential campaign, was extremely dirty. We had a little roundtable discussion here at the studio the other day. We were talking about, I think Trump played it brilliantly for what he had to work with. He knew how to get everybody who wanted to talk politics out of their bag and stop talking about politics, and let's talk about your mother. What do you mean my mother? You don't talk about my mother. And now he got them to spend, like, that national debate with Hillary was a great example. Every time she brought up something that a president should talk about, he talked about stuff that was salacious, and he played the game. He made her fight his fight.
He played the TV host.
Yeah, and it was brilliant, because I think I'm an intelligent guy, and I got caught up in it. I was like,
sure.
Oh, what's he gonna say about the emails?
Right.
And we spent so much time talking about stuff that really was superfluous. Does it really matter at the end of the day? Do we care about that as much as we care about the future?
Apparently so.
Right.
In the end, believe me, Ace, I was sitting there watching the last 3, 4, 5 months, and I'm running for president, so it was me. I was all about wanting to win and run. Did I have the person I voted for? Yes, in the end. But I will tell you that, again, 3 people this election cycle ran for president that had no political experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everybody laughed about Donald Trump. They didn't even laugh about Carly Fiorina or Dr. Ben Carson. Oh, really? Okay.
Right.
Trump, automatic. Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. Sure, he's going to win. Sure, he has no shot. I remember I saw Ann Coulter on a CNN program a year and a half ago, and they replayed it the other night, how she had said, they had asked her who she thought was going to win president. A year and a half ago, she was Donald Trump. And everybody on the panel broke out in laughter.
Right.
And even I, at the time, said, no, I like Donald Trump, always have, but running for president, I always knew that he had the aspiration. I mean, I saw that Oprah interview from 1988, and I remember seeing it then. Trump's been around for 35 years.
Yeah, and it's something that people then they pick apart the things that don't matter. They go, oh, this guy can't be president. Look at his watch. How's he going to be president with a watch like that? And then the things, and we have a nasty habit in this country of taking someone, I call it desire to fail syndrome. I just made that up, actually.
Desire to fail
syndrome. Not to
Remember that.
Sorry, we have to do the legal, But
I understood every word you said, just like reading it.
But I do see it as a desire to fail. Like, we build someone up, we get excited when they're on their climb. Justin Bieber is a great example. And then we find out he's got the #1 album in the country. Well, he's blah, blah, blah. He can't stay there. There's no way he could be blah, blah. I don't know why that is. You're not a sociologist, so I wouldn't expect you to know why that is. But it's a terrible, terrible thing in our country because, first off, I'm sure you would agree that this is the greatest country on earth.
It always has been, and it always will be. Do we need to improve in certain areas? Sure, but yes, it is.
So shouldn't we be more encouraging of people doing great things? If you want to run for president, it would seem like in America, the attitude should be like, hey, this guy's running for president. Let's give him a hand.
Exactly. But again, when we just talked about earlier, it's not. For some reason, we like to build people up, especially the media.
Mm-hmm.
They invented him. Oh, he's beautiful. And then we can bring you down when we feel like it.
Sure.
They can make anybody a star that they want to.
Sure.
They may deny that, but it's not true. They can take anybody off the street and do whatever they want with them, get their word out. Boom. Sure. If I could get on TV every night, I mean, God forbid, I'm glad they didn't have the internet back in the 80s. I mean, there's enough dirt. If I had actually become a viable candidate, they could have dug up a couple of inches, and I'd have been out the next day.
This guy eats spaghetti, but he doesn't finish his meatballs.
Right.
He's out of here.
Gone.
Of course. Yeah.
Anything. Yeah. So, and then they would attack after Trump got elected, just in the last week, gave all the, and again, I hate to say, the liberal news, CNN, MSNBC, everybody's crying.
Right.
Rachel Maddow was crying on TV.
Right.
The world's going to end. The sun's not going to rise.
Yeah, the worst decision America's ever made, yes.
You know, at first, oh, he'll never win, never. And then all of a sudden, he does. And now all of a sudden, they're, oh my God. You know, you just said 2 hours ago that he wasn't going to win.
Right.
Now you're all boo-hooing all
and
over
look
the
what's
place.
happened to America.
Yeah, so stop. Give anybody that wins an opportunity. My God. And I'll tell you one thing, I have no issue with a female president. It just didn't work out for Hillary. And so there was a meme on Facebook today, and I laughed my butt off when I saw it, that Hillary Clinton is the first woman to lose 2 presidential elections.
Right.
So there's a record right there. And again, you know, Hillary Clinton on the other end, she's been around for 30 years or so.
Right.
Let's just say she was totally innocent of everything she's ever been accused of. The fact that you couldn't get rid of this dark cloud that's
Sure.
been hanging over your political career your whole life.
Right.
So that tells me that it's not all sunshine and 90 degrees in your life. Some of that stuff has got to be some, you know,
Something else is stuck.
there
Yeah.
has to be. Where there's smoke, there's fire, so to speak. And in the end, the 52% of women voted for Donald Trump. So that grab him by the you-know-what
Right.
apparently didn't mean much in the end.
Now, I want to say something. We're going to run out of
On
time.
internet radio, I would have said the whole thing. But
You can still say it. We love to say it, but we don't love to do it. But here's the thing. So
that was weird. We love to say it, but we don't like to do it.
No, we don't want to. No. What's the matter with you? That's
Hey,
whole,
I'm a guy.
That's a whole other shit. You don't just go
Locking-
grab them by the.
You're right. It's locking
Buy
them
them a drink first.
Right. Okay.
So here's the thing. So I was watching the debates,
Okay.
and I came up with a philosophy on. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's how he won or it's just a philosophy. Sometimes you just think about things in the middle of the night and there's no one around but you.
Right.
So I thought if Donald Trump was running in an election against Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Mitt Romney, and George Bush Sr., maybe, he probably wouldn't have won because all of those guys are charismatic on stage. All of those guys come with their bullets prepared. They know what they're doing. He ran in an election with Ben Carson and, you know, Ted. And
Yeah,
none of those guys.
Little Marco.
None of those guys really could hold a candle to Donald, the Donald, who had, let's be fair, who had a running television show. He was on
15
stage
years.
a lot. He
Yeah.
knows cameras. He knows how to work cameras. So, again, by getting them to play out of their ballpark and play his game where he was most comfortable. Even that thing about standing behind Hillary at the debate, you know, and walking around stage. It was a show.
Right.
It was a show for show's sake. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Now again, I know he knows what he's doing, but I don't know if every instant he had planned or if it just kind of fell in his
But
lap
does
at some
anybody?
point.
Of course
Yeah.
not. Yeah. Of course.
But like you said, the standing behind the Hillary. I was at the last debate in Las Vegas, and yeah, you're right. He knows how to work a camera. He knows where to. Even Hillary said she felt intimidated, but he was just standing. He was pacing, is what he
Right.
was, and the camera happened to catch him behind to make it look like, oh, he's stalking her.
Oh, I think he knew exactly what he was doing.
Maybe.
I think he knew that this is a. No matter what, I think this is me thinking like him, but I can't do his imitation yet. But now I get 4 years to practice.
You do.
I think he was saying, I'm going to keep this camera on me. Even when she's talking, I will be a figure in the lens. And as long as I'm a figure in the lens, no matter what, people can't stop thinking about me. No matter what she's talking about, I'm in the shot. So no matter what, I got this, dog.
On the same line, Ace, he knew that when he ran for president, that he had all the TV experience.
Mm-hmm.
He knew that, and the negative publicity that he got is the same. In Hollywood, it's a fine line between good publicity and bad.
Of course.
Publicity is publicity.
Of course.
And
Well,
he knew, you know, and he got beat down by the media. The media, now they're saying that he got over $2 billion worth of free TV.
Exactly.
Just because he was the Donald.
That's right.
He didn't spend, the richest man, one of the richest men in the world, didn't have to spend any money to get all that airtime.
That's right.
And everybody else had to cough up that money. Amazing.
Yeah.
And he did it. He didn't care about negative publicity.
That's right.
And in the end, it didn't matter. He got elected, for Christ's sake. So it didn't really matter. And he knew, again, I don't know if he knew he was going to win or not. There had to have been some shred. I mean, a true leader never gets defeated and you're, oh, I'm going to win. And he even programmed it into us, the viewers. We're number one in polls. We're number one in Ohio, even though just on the other channel, Ohio, he was down by 10 points. We're up in Michigan. We're up in Idaho. We're up. And everybody's going, even though he was down. But again, in the end, maybe he never was. Maybe it was the liberal-driven media. Mm-hmm. These numbers were twisted and chewed up. And not every 30,000 stating that he filled up, not everybody was there just to be a looky-loo.
Right.
They had to have been there because they support him. Now, were there looky-loos there, curious? Oh, let's go see the Donald, the Governor Prentice guy. I'm sure of it.
And I think that is where you find, when you're standing there and you've got a crowd of 30,000, you go, somebody's digging this, and I need to continue. I need to keep this ball moving. You know, Jimmy Buffett is still on tour. By the way, everything I say is pop culture references because that's how I roll, man.
Or sports, even. I use sports metaphors for that myself. But.
Let me ask you one last question, and this is, in my opinion, it's a deep question. People did the whole doomsday scenario. You ran for president. I look at it like you were in the fray. You know more about it than the average person would ever know about the arena. Are we headed for bad times because of who won the election? Either one of them? Or is that going to make us be in these doomsday scenarios? Are we going to lose our freedom? We're going to lose our rights? Deport all these people? We're going to lose our health care? Like, is that all going to happen in the next 4 to 8 years?
Again, we never know what the future holds. I do believe that most of us, in my lifetime, the day after a new president got elected, or one got reelected, my day continued. I woke up, went to work, saw all my friends and co-workers and family members. Life goes on. Now, are certain things going to change? Yes, I do believe they are. Do they have to? Yes. Yesterday, Donald Trump mentioned 2 to 3 million illegal criminal immigrants in the United States. Forget Trump, forget Hillary. When you hear the phrase 2 to 3 million criminally illegal people in the United States, I don't want them here. Mm-hmm. Who would want them here? Forget the politics part. You've got 2 or 3 million criminals here from outside the United States that are undocumented. Mm-hmm. That's not safe. We got to get some of those people away from here or out of here or incarcerated. Mm-hmm. Now the other immigrants that are here illegally and undocumented, I don't want to see families get torn apart. I don't think Donald Trump wants that. But you've got to fix the situation. You know, there's not going to be any doomsday unless you're an illegal immigrant. Right. You know, right. I'm sorry. There's not even a doomsday scenario there. Go down to your local immigration office. Start the paperwork. If you have problems speaking English or reading in English, they have all that stuff in Spanish. Get the process started. Show proof. You know, and we're not 1940s German, show me your papers. But, you know, there has to be, you know, the laws are already on the books. We've got to follow them. Mm-hmm. You know, eventually if we don't, you know, we're going to have 30 million, 40 million illegal, 50 million. And then you see New York City, the governor or Mayor de Blasio want sanctuary cities. That's not right. You have Mayor Emanuel in Chicago, same thing. Today, we will protect all citizens of the city of Chicago, illegally or legally, or this or that. You can't, these guys are breaking the law, living here, and who knows if those people that you're sheltering might not be very good people. It's got to stop. As far as health care, it sounds great in theory. Every American having some form of basic health care provided by the government. Generically, why wouldn't that work? Well, the Obama plan, and some of the political pundits in the past who saw that it was going to fail, and some parts of it has. You know, a lot of people's premiums have gone up, and they will go up next year some more. Now, I heard Obama and Trump when they had their little meeting that Obama said, "Yeah, I know you're gonna, you know, put your hands into Obama." Yeah, he said, "Here's a couple. Can you at least keep a couple of the stuff in there?"
Sure.
Right. And Donald Trump was open to it. He didn't say we're going to dismantle the whole thing, but there's better ways of doing it. And there's a couple things about Obamacare that were good. So we're just going to have to give and take here. And you got to give this man a chance. Whoever got elected with no political experience, he's going to surround himself with good people. And his vice presidential pick was a very good one, Mike Pence. Very good, calm, level-headed, total opposite of Donald Trump. Although I've noticed him becoming a little more, as I say, presidential in the last week. He seemed a little humbled when he was sitting there in the Oval, with President Obama. You could see it in him. Oh my God, I actually won. But I do think he's got the whole world watching.
Right.
He's surrounding himself with the best team that he can, and you can have all the critics. He's going to have to get used to that too. Every day, the rest of the next 4 years, people are going to go after him. They're going to go after Melania. They're going to go after his family.
Sure.
So he's just got to develop the thick skin. I'm not going to say stay off Twitter, but tone it down a little. I mean, it doesn't say anything about a president not being able to use Twitter. That's just today's day and age. He's just going to have to tone it down a little. Focus on the issues. Surround yourself with people that know what they're doing, because there is no school to go to become president. Obama didn't go. I think the closest political position that you can have to prepare yourself for that, it would be a governor of a state. To me, that would be the closest. And even then, they don't have the foreign policy experience because they're not really visiting foreign dignitaries. So again, Trump's going to have to work on that. As far as ISIS, who of your viewers want ISIS around? Who? I can't imagine one. We've got to get rid of them. And it doesn't matter who started it, or it was Obama's fault, it was Bush's fault. They're here in America now. We just had this attack, in last Christmas in San Bernardino.
That's right.
They weren't vetted very good, were they?
Right.
And when Donald Trump said, we need to stop all Muslim immigration into the United States until we figure this thing out. But of course, the liberal-driven media always left out the last part. Until we figure this thing out. It's not the same America now. Oh, it's the land of the free immigrants and legal immigrants. And until we can figure this stuff out, I think we need to have a vetting process that's a little tougher. Sorry, like you mentioned earlier in the beginning of the show, Canada. You can't just walk over there. And why aren't all these celebrities? We're moving to Canada if Trump gets elected. How come you guys aren't moving to Mexico?
Right.
Why we have 15 million illegals in the United States? Because Mexico's economy, government is corrupt and awful. If it wasn't, they wouldn't be here. That's pretty much it. I don't think Donald Trump's going to be that bad. And again, if you don't like what he did in 4 years from now, vote him out. You don't have to go bust out windows in your neighbor's store. You don't have to go smash a police car. Just vote. Really. And we learned this election that your vote does count. It does.
And that is what's up. Hey, man, it's the Ace Michaels Show. Hey, this guy got my vote for next president. I got no problem with it. And I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe so. I'd say, George, you better go on up with it.
Well, I might have to come back in 2019 and announce my candidacy on your show.
I love
That's
it.
a ways away, but
I love it. Well, it's not that far. Yeah, hey, listen, man. Anyway, you know what I say at the end of the show? I say, live the life you love the life you live. I'm going to add to that, hey, if you don't want to get shot by the police, obey the police. And that's what
I agree with that.
Have a great night, or a great day, good evening, good day, good morning, good to you, my friend. George Miklos.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ace. Appreciate it.